and welcome to this next episode of Alexforbes' Women's Month podcast series. With me today to speak about the great wealth transfer is Rita Cool, head of individual consulting strategy at Alexforbes. Welcome, Rita.
Thanks, Martha.
Rita, before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and professional background?
Well, for my sins, I have been with Alexforbes for the last 26 years. I've enjoyed it a lot. I have been a financial advisor during that period of time for the last 19 years, and I focus specifically on clients who retire or resign from their jobs, and then also their supplementary requirements. And I'm passionate about financial planning for women, so I'm really looking forward to this discussion today.
So you've spent quite a bit of time being a financial advisor, advising individuals. Has that included a lot of women?
Absolutely. And I feel that I get a lot of satisfaction from helping women, especially if they don't have the knowledge or the experience to deal with their own financial advice. And through the years, I've seen a lot of women making good decisions, and it's very satisfying to be a part of that process.
So today we will be discussing the great wealth transfer. What is that, and what's the big deal?
At long last, women are going to get a lot of money from finance and from transfers from their parents and from their spouses. We are not talking small numbers here. We are talking trillions of dollars just in the States. So that is going to also happen in South Africa. And it is because women are living longer and they are inheriting now from their families.
And what is the issue with this great wealth transfer that's coming? What should women be concerned about?
Nothing to be concerned about when you're going to get a lot of money, but
Very true. We welcome that.
The big problem is that a lot of women don't have the financial education and the financial confidence, because I think that women are underestimated, especially in South Africa. There are so many single income women-led families in South Africa. If you give a woman 100 rand, she'll make 150 rands worth of stuff come out there.
Because women are multipliers.
Exactly. But there are there's a lot of history, and women have been excluded to a large extent out of financial decisions, be it culturally, the husband made the decisions in families, and women might not be confident enough to make these decisions, and they might not know enough about finances to make these decisions. So we are in a situation now where women will have to figure out very, very quickly how to run with this trillions of dollars.
So what happens during these periods when there are great transfers of wealth?
There's a lot of emotion, because the money is either coming to you because a parent passed away, or both parents have passed away, or your spouse has passed away, or potentially through divorce. All three of those things are very, very emotional. So it is a situation where women are faced with making decisions on finances while they are dealing with this thing emotionally. And women, it's not a bad thing to have emotions, and grief, whether it's the loss of a relationship or a loved one, has to be dealt with. So what women need to be aware of during this transition is how they should wait to make a decision on their finances until they can make it without emotion. And if they are struggling with that, to get help so that they are not being forced into decisions that they look at later and they realize that they made a wrong decision.
And family pressure can be a big part of that. Is there a role that a financial advisor could play in helping women to really navigate that minefield?
Absolutely. We don't have that emotional tie and the pressure from families and things like that. So we can make the decision without emotion. We can say, this is the best decision for you financially. You don't have to feel guilty for leaving out Uncle X and Aunt Y out of a financial decision, because we can show you on paper why it is not a good decision to do that. There's a lot of pressure. Anytime when there's money on the table, there is I've seen families break down because of inheritances and things like that. So if you're not open and have those discussions with your family, it can only turn out badly. And a financial advisor could be like a shield for you to have those decisions, because you can then say, it's not my decision. My financial advisor said that this is the best for me, and it almost takes that responsibility of the decision away from the person, and then the family can say, well, okay, well, if the advisor said so, then we can't really point fingers at the person who got the money.
It's a good way for women to avoid getting into confrontations with family members,
Yeah.
Especially taking into account culturally those family dynamics where perhaps uncles, elders may believe that they should have a say in how a woman spends her inheritance.
Absolutely, and that is the other problem with this great wealth transfer. It is the cultural expectations and the history with the culture, because, as you say, in some cultures the men inherit, but that's not this. It's not always going to be like that. Women are now inheriting. Women are on thrones of countries that never allowed women to rule. So if they can change, then we can do those changes in families as well.
And that objective third party, your financial advisor and expert, can really help you to navigate that.
Absolutely.
So are there any other risks during this period that women need to be aware of and prepare for?
Yes. So the grief that you feel could have been expected. It could be a long time coming, and you know that your parents are going to pass away due to old age, or there was an illness, and you could prepare yourself emotionally for that. It could have happened very quickly, and then you were blindsided, your husband was in an accident, there was a heart attack or something like that, and now you're going to inherit, and you weren't emotionally ready for that. So during that time that you are still very vulnerable, people could take advantage of you. And that's when the fraudsters come out, and the family members who, oh, of course I'm going to look after you, and this is the best. And then with hindsight, you realize that it was actually a scam. People promised you things. It's not even just financial scams that come to the fore. It is the emotional side. Suddenly you are alone. You were always in a relationship, and now you have to navigate the world alone. So suddenly there are people finding you on the internet, promising
the Casanovas.
Promising you a good relationship, and can you please just help here and help there. So watch out for fraud, and it's not only just strangers who are going to take advantage of you. It could be the family members, the please auntie, can't you help, and suddenly you've got a lot of friends, and people who you haven't spoken to for ages suddenly come out of the woodwork. So one of the tips that I can give is that with your financial advisor, or just think about answers that you can give if you are faced with a question like that, because it's very difficult to have an answer ready when you're asked, please, I am in financial trouble, can you please help me with 5,000 rand or 10,000 rand?
Trying to respond in the moment.
Exactly, but if you have an answer before to say, I will take your query into consideration. I am discussing this with my financial advisor, and we will respond to you once we have more information. Then again, you use your financial advisor as the shield, and it buys you time to go and think and say, and then you can also go back afterwards and you can say, we are sorry, after looking at the numbers, it wasn't possible to give you whatever you asked for. And it doesn't have to be true, but it gives you that out if you have thought about an answer before you get asked that question.
So actually, timing is also quite important. When should women think about actually engaging with a financial advisor and establishing that relationship? How soon? Before they receive the money? After they receive the money?
You should already be speaking to a financial advisor, and you should be engaged with what happens in your finances right now, because you don't need to wait for money to come your way. You also have the preparation for your own finances already before something like this happens. I mentioned earlier that the transfer of wealth could happen because you know that it's going to happen. Have a discussion with your family at that stage. Engage a financial advisor at that stage. There might be ways to lessen fees that will affect your inheritance by doing the planning now before the person has passed away. The discussion that you should have with your spouse to make sure that you know what will be the effect if you pass away now. Will I have enough money in our existing financial plan to look after myself and the children who are still very young? Do we have a will? All of those things cannot be left until something happens. Then it is too late. You need to have clear guidance and idea what is going to happen if something happens now.
And once women do receive this money, once they do inherit, what should they be doing?
You have to think about the plan going forward. So if you're getting the money because it's an inheritance, don't waste the money. You got this from a place of love, that your parents, for example, who worked very hard, and money tends to trickle out of little holes. Don't create little holes and, a pair of shoes here and insignificant things. Think about a proper plan for when you do inherit this. I have a friend who paid off her bond, and forever she will be grateful for her parents, and she'll be able to point at that and say, I got the house because of my parents. So have a plan for when the money comes. And also, if it is something that happens because of unexpected and it was trauma, for example, a spouse, also just be...
A spouse getting into an accident or something of that kind, and maybe you receive an insurance payout.
Absolutely.
Unexpected.
Unexpected. And make sure that, as I mentioned earlier, that it is going to be enough for you. Make sure that there is going to be a will that specifies what happens to the money, who gets the money, are the children looked after, what happens if both of you are in that accident and it has to go to a next generation. So it's not quite a wealth transfer, but don't be left on the back foot. Teach yourself about finance. Don't just sit, if you and your husband have a discussion with a financial advisor, don't just sit there and be a silent participant. Understand what they are talking about. You don't have to know all the intricacies and, this was the return and all of those things. But if you don't keep an active eye on your finances, you can be really, really blindsided. One of the things that when you could get money is at the divorce. And in that situation, I have seen the most horrendous things where women were blindsided, and not because they were financially ignorant, just because they didn't necessarily keep tabs on their finances. A life policy, the premium wasn't paid anymore. And then there was a suicide, for example. And even with suicide, you need to check when the policy was taken out in relationship to the timing when the suicide takes place.
Because there could be a waiting period.
There could be an exclusion if a person took out the policy too soon before the suicide. It could be that your spouse was running a very successful business, or you thought it was a very successful business, but there was quite a lot of debt, either in the business or in their personal capacity. You can't take debt. You can't take out extra debt without the spouse's approval if you're married in community of property. But if it's an antenuptial contract, that person can take out their own debt, and you don't even know about that. And then when the person dies, you think, okay, well, there's enough money, but then the debt has to be settled first. I know of people where the spouse, just before they became the ex-spouse, they started cleaning out the money in the access bond, so that by the time that the divorce happened, there was no paid off or almost paid off house, because they started taking money out of that. Trusts were set up to siphon money into a structure where you can't touch it, so that the money goes into the trust. Those are the type of things that you need to be aware of all the way through, so that you're not in a situation where you've got the emotions plus a big financial trauma happening at the same time.
I mean, Rita, those sound like nightmares. How can a woman, especially if she is anticipating there could be a divorce on the horizon avoid falling into those traps?
I think education. So read up about it, and if it is if it feels too overwhelming and too confusing, speak to a financial advisor, because they are the translators from finance into human speak to help you to say, okay, this is what is going to happen. Let's see if we cannot help you. And have you thought about this? This is what needs to happen with your retirement fund. So this is the best way that you are going to avoid paying unnecessary tax if you're going into a divorce. This is what happens on a death benefit. And the more you are prepared, the easier it is going to be if you do get into that situation.
Rita, any final thoughts around the great wealth transfer and how women can make it work for them, get the best out of it?
Yeah. So again, speak to somebody that you trust, get the education. At Forbes, we've got 45% of our financial advisors are female. The statistics worldwide, not even just in South Africa, is that the average financial practice only has between 20 and 30% financial advisors who are female. So for financial advisors out there, their practices will need to change to make sure that their female clients can be helped. But at Forbes, we are definitely actively working towards having better representation so that you can speak to somebody who understands your language as a woman. And then I would say to people, just take it one step at a time. I know it is very, very scary, but you don't have to do it alone. And if you are overwhelmed, it's normal. So don't panic about something like that. You can grieve as long as you want to. Take it at your own speed, and then when the money does come through, make sure that it benefits you, and do something proper and decent with it.
Rita, that was very enlightening. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alexforbes' Women's Month podcast series.